Hi, this is Seth David for the Sleater Group, bringing to you another special screencast. This time we're talking about 5 tips on how to kick your social productivity into high gear. Call us for additional help on this or any other topic you see, as well as information about memberships and resources at 888-484-5484. Now stay tuned for our tips. Hi, Seth David here for the Sleater Group, bringing to you another special screencast. And I know I've been hitting you heavy lately with social media tips, so I'm thinking you may be wondering why I'm doing this. There's a couple of reasons. First of all, many people tell me that they don't have time for social media. And so I'm trying to show you tips and tricks for simplifying, automating, speeding up the process of creating and publishing and automating content on the web so that you do have time, to show you that you should make the time because it's that important to do, number one. And number two, it is possible. It is possible to get it done doing it yourself, and I think it's so important to be producing your own content every day, because if you really want to build and attract an audience, which is what social media is really all about, then it really has to come from the heart, which means it has to be yours. It has to come from you if you're going to build your brand. This is just my opinion, of course, and it's based on my experience. Now, the other reason is based on the feedback from my session at the Sleater Conference last year. We're talking about, nothing's etched in stone, but we're talking about doing a full-length workshop on using social media to build and grow your business. And so a lot of this content I'm designing is really meant to prepare you for that, so that hopefully you'll have a chance and take the time to review this stuff. And then when you come to the conference this coming November 3rd to 6th, you're seeing it on the screen here, you'll be prepared for that workshop if this is something you think you'll be interested in. So don't forget to click here where it says remind me to register in next month, after the month I'm recording this, actually later this month, come to think of it. We're already in the month of April as I'm recording this. So come here and click to register. And of course, if you're watching this and it's way past that time, then you're just coming to sleaterconference.com to look at when the next scheduled conference is. And if all goes well, you'll eventually see information about more social media sessions, because I think this is an area that a lot of people really would like to have more help in. So I wanted to give you a productivity tip. It's really, we're talking about 5 tips on how to kick your social productivity into high gear. So let's take a look at what that looks like. But first of all, tying back to a previous post, we looked at RSS feed readers. We talked about the fact that Google Reader is, or Google rather, is ending its Google Reader product. I've been looking at some alternatives. One of them is what I've just brought up on screen here. It's called NetVibes. NetVibes, as you can see here, gives you an interface that's very similar to what Google Reader gave you. And I'm doing more and more research into these alternatives, so you'll be seeing more content on this going forward. As you can see, I've got the Sleater feed all set up here. It's under here in a category that I've created called accounting. And you can see that it's got the last 20 or so posts listed here. And of course, down here at the bottom, I can go previous or next. So this is a great way to keep track of the Sleater blog. But specifically why I'm bringing it up is because of how a tool that I use, or a series of tools that are connected that I use to really help me to keep track of all of my content. Because sure, I can go over to the Sleater blog and I can type a search term here and search for things, but I like to put systems in place that are a little more specific than just hoping that I put a search term in that pulls up a post that I might be looking for that may have been put up a year or more ago. So what I've done is I've created some things that I put into place to help keep track of, to help reference, categorize, and ultimately automate the publishing of this content. So what are we looking at here? I've got the recent feed. What I do next is every week or so, and the Sleater blog puts out a lot of content. We put out 2 or 3 posts a week sometimes. So what I do is once a week or so, I update this log here, which I've got in Excel, where it shows me the date, the title, the author. I've got the blog URL here. If applicable, you'll see a YouTube URL. The shortened URL, which comes in handy when you're posting to Twitter. The tweet, initially I just grab from the title of the post, but sometimes I'll go in and rewrite these. And then a concatenate formula that combines the tweet with the shortened URL so that it's ready to go on Twitter. And of course, the last column here calculates the length for me to make sure I'm within 140 characters, which is the limit on Twitter. So this is a tool that I use. This is the second tip. The first tip is using a feed reader to excuse me, aggregate your content in a way that makes it easy to look through and see, where the recent posts are and even beyond recent. The second tip is use Excel to keep a log of all of your posts, and you're going to see why this comes in handy in a second. And in tip number 3, I'm going to show you another piece of software that I use that helps me also keep track of my content. So let's come over, let's take a look at that. This is called the Brain. Now what I've got up here is I've got the Brain open to a section on a recent post that I did, recent as of the time I'm recording this, of course, on how to use Twitter to grow, search to grow your business. And this is the Brain. This is a mind mapping software, if you will. And what it does is it lets me organize things in terms of thoughts. So each one of these little nodes here is a thought. And so I have under social and blog campaigns, productivity, how to use Twitter search to grow your business. And you can see I've got some of the other recent ones up here as well. When I come in here, you'll notice I've got a Word document right here embedded. This is the original post that I wrote. And I can open it right from here, and I can edit it and save it. And here's the post. How to use Twitter search to grow your business. It's all here. And notice it's right here. This is a link to the YouTube video. This is what I, once I recorded and published the video on YouTube, I added a link here so that I could get to that easily. One thing I haven't added here yet, which I want to now, is the link to the blog post. So let's go over, let's actually come over to here. And here's how to use Twitter search to grow your business. So again, using the feed reader, I can quickly access the recent posts. I'm going to click this little double arrow icon here. It takes me right into the original blog post. So I can copy this URL. It's already highlighted. Once I click in here, Control-C to copy. Let's come back over to the Brain. I'm going to add something here. That's to add an item, add an attachment rather, in the Brain. I'm going to choose Link to URL and paste that link in. Click OK. And now it puts it in, and it grabs the little favicon from the website. The Brain is smart like that. It'll pull that icon in so that it's very clear where this link is taking me. So now in one place, and look what happens if I go home. I'll take you home. This is the very home thought of my whole brain. There's a lot of stuff in here. My personal stuff, my Nerd Enterprises stuff that I want to read. Here's a tip I'll do at a future point on how I use this for to-do lists. But let's go over and search for Twitter now. Because I know I did that post on Twitter for the Sleater Group. I just don't. Oh, there it is. How to use Twitter search to grow your business. I click on that. Takes me right over. And now in one place, I've got it all indexed. I can go to the original blog post. I can go to the YouTube video. And of course, I have the original Word document where I wrote that blog post. So that, my friends, is tip number 3 on how to boost your productivity in social media. On how to kick your social productivity into high gear. Let's look at tip number 4. Now we're going to look at Evernote. So let's say, and on the most recent one, on this one rather, let's pick on this one again. And let's say I want to keep my archive in Evernote. The truth is I keep them in all places, and I know people think I'm crazy, but I have my reasons. And the reasons really come down to the fact that I just like different aspects of these different programs. And in my experience, it never hurts to have things in more than one place. So if I wanted to do it in Evernote, I'll click. I'm looking at one of my other screens here. I'm going to open up a brand new note, and I'm already in my notebook that I have called Webcast Profiles, which is where I keep all the notes on all my profiles. And the first thing I want to do, and having it up here in the Brain already is helpful. Let's just copy that whole title, Alt-Tab back over to the new note, paste that in. Okay, now I can minimize the Brain a little bit here, and I'm pretty sure I can click and drag this. 1, 2, and that got a little jumbled. So let's do this a little bit more organized. This is my YouTube URL. Bold that, make it stand out. Blog URL. The other reason I'm showing you both of these is because depending on you, you might prefer one over the other. Click and drag the blog URL over. Now I've got that in place. And then what I might do in a case like this is for the original Word doc, see the Brain. What you may want to do, just because this is kind of a long, ugly link, is cut that in hyperlink add, OK. All right. So let's try this again. Click on the link. It opens up the brain. It's showing it on my other screen. And it needs to think for a minute, but eventually it will come around to this. So, what else could you do? I could embed the Word document right here in Evernote. The other thing I could do if I really wanted to, and there it is. It just takes a minute. It's a little slow. But if I wanted to, I could write a summary about the blog post, and I can put keywords in here based on key topics. Now, where this comes in really handy is when I get a comment on a blog post, let's say that I post in a few weeks from now. What will happen is somebody will likely ask a question that I remember. I can easily answer that question by pointing them over to this blog post. So what I'll want to do is I want to have a way of searching very quickly based on topic, because I won't necessarily remember, exactly which post it was, but I can search by keyword in Evernote to find the blog post. Again, yes, I can do it in the blog, but I find this to be a much more effective way of quickly getting at the content that I want. And so I can search by making sure I put keywords in here using a short summary or just a list of words that I feel kind of represent the key topics. Those same words can and should be used as tags in the blog post so that it's searchable kind of, and you're consistent about how you apply, the ways in which it's searchable. So definitely something I like to do is keep this in Evernote, keep this in the brain. I like keeping it in both places. The other thing I like about keeping it in Evernote, which is why I don't just do it in the brain alone, is Evernote has the phone app. So if I'm out and about, somebody's asking me a question, I say, oh, we have a blog post on that, and don't laugh because it comes up. I can, search for it in my Evernote app, get the information. I can even email that note to them. You can do it here from the desktop version, and you can do it from the mobile app as well. You can easily email a note to somebody. So I can say, hey, here's the whole profile I have on that blog post. Go read the post, watch the video. Everything you need is right here in one place. So that helps. Now, let's look at the next and final tip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you to pause the video right now, because the next section is going to go on for probably another 10 or 15 minutes or so. Because now that I've shown you these 4 tips, right? We talked about using NetVibes, a feed reader. We talked about the Excel log was number 2. We talked about the brain is number 3. Evernote is number 4. The 5th tip is going to be a little bit longer in terms of showing you now that you've got this stuff all organized, how you can very easily automate your Twitter account so that it's going off around the clock whether you're there or not. Now I want to qualify something very important here and make the point of saying that this doesn't exclude you from having to be there ever. What it does is it enables you to have content going out around the clock so that then a couple times a day that you've set aside to engage, hopefully you've had people responding to that content that went out there all day, so that you can get in there yourself live and reply and communicate with your community, which again is kind of the whole point of all this. So let's take a look. Pause the video if you want to go back and kind of review some of what I've shown you so far. And then in the next section of this video, we're going to take a look at Social Oomph and how I use that to automate my Twitter accounts.